Welcome back, my dear friends. Welcome back to the current session of operating system. In our previous session, we have learnt about the operations on processes. At the same time, we have learnt about the introduction of inter-process communication. Okay, again, in the inter-process communication, we have gone through various reasons for cooperation. At the same time, what are the two fundamental models of inter-process communication? So let us try to continue our topic with the inter-process communication in little bit detail, because this is an important question for the examination. At the same time, this is an important concept even for the interviews or any kind of competitive examinations. See friends, when you have an environment or when you have an operating system environment in which if it contains more than one process, then assume that at any instance you should have these processes to be in cooperating mode. That means the operating system environment is called the cooperating environment, and these processes are called the cooperating processes. What exactly the cooperating environment do? In this environment, the processes try to share the data between them. At the same time, the processes tries to exchange the data. The processes tries to exchange the data between processes. That means exchanging of data indicates the cooperative nature. And why we have to do that? We have several reasons for creating the cooperation environment. The first reason is the information sharing. If you need the information if you need to share the information, then the environment should be cooperative. The second reason is the computation speed up. To improve the speed, you have to go for the cooperating environment. Next, if you want to go for creating a modular environment, then it is also required for cooperating environment, because in particular module all the processes are cooperative, right? And the last reason is the convenience. Corporate environment gives more convenience when compared to other environments. So these are the four reasons. Let's try to move ahead. And we came to know that we have two kinds of basic models. We have two kinds of basic communication models between the processes. The first model is the message passing, and the second model is the shared memory, right? You can see both these two models in the diagram also. Okay, so in the left side picture you have two processes, that is process A, and you have another process, that is process B. And even the kernel is also a process. Assume like that. Even the executing operating system or kernel is also a big process, right? Now process A wants to exchange some data to process B. So using the mechanism or using the method called the message passing. What exactly it is going to be? Very simple. So process A is trying to send a message M to the kernel, because in the message passing, no process has the provision or privilege to directly send the message to other process. It is a security issue. So what exactly we have to do? The process A has to send the message to the kernel or the operating system. Now, once the operating system receives the message from any process, then it looks for the destination. So what is the destination here? That is the process B. Okay. So operating system tries to exchange this message to the process B. So the step 1 indicates, you can see that the step 1 indicates process A is sending the message to the kernel, okay, And step 2, kernel forwarding the same message to process B. So this communication model is called the message passing. And what is the second model? The shared memory concept. That means in this scenario you have the same process A and process B, and process A wants to share some data, some information to the process B. So instead of directly sending that data to the process B, process A tries to store the data or tries to preserve the data in a particular location where that location is a common access to both process A and process B. So process A is trying to preserve the data in a location which is having a common access or which is having a shared memory to both process A and process B. Now process B can go to the shared memory location and can fetch the data or the shared data which is at the shared memory. You can see the picture. Step 1. In the step 1, process A is preserving the data in the shared memory. Step 2, process B is fetching the data from the shared memory. Even in both the systems or in both the models, kernel is also taking the responsibility, right? But we have to understand that in the message passing systems, the operating system takes the responsibility. In the message passing systems, the operating system takes the responsibility in exchange of data. But in the shared memory concept, of exchanging the data, the processes has to take the responsibility, or the processes are the responsible ones for ensuring that they are not keeping the data or accessing the data simultaneously to the same location. That means in the shared memory concept, the processes should be well aware, the processes should be well managed, or the processes should know where they are going to keep the data and where they are going to access the data in order to avoid the conflicts. We'll try to understand this statement again in the session only. So let us try to understand this shared memory concept with some example. The best example is the problem called the producer and consumer problem. The problem called producer and consumer. So how it can be perceived? A producer is a process which produces information that is consumed by the consumer process. Simple. So we have two processes, producer and consumer. Producer process tries to produce the data and it is keeping into the shared memory. At the same time, the consumer process will fetch the data from the shared memory. Simple. And you can also understand from the real-time example. In the real-time example, you can see that a compiler may produce the assembly code which is consumed by the assembler. Okay. So compiler is producing the assembly code which is required for the assembler. At the same time, the assembler may produce object modules which are consumed by the loader. So you have you have the compiler producing the assembly code for the assembler, and assembler is taking that data. Again, it is trying to transform the data into object modules, and it is forwarding those object modules, or it is sharing those object modules to the loader. So this is a real-time example where you can see the producer and consumer problem. You should try to understand this concept, the producer and consumer problem. What exactly it means? We have some kind of processes which are producing the data, and there are some other kind of processes which are consuming the data. And assume that there is a shared memory which is in the form of a buffer. There is a shared memory which is in the form of a buffer between these two kind of processes. That means the buffer is a location where the producer is keeping the data and the consumer is accessing the data. Again, we may put a question, how the buffer can be? Of course, a buffer can be a bounded buffer with a limited number of size, or it can be an unbounded buffer which with unlimited space. So the buffer can be a bounded buffer with limited space. The buffer can be the unbounded space with unlimited space. Let's look more closely, or let us try to see the buffer, the bounded buffer, little bit detail, how its structure can be. If you try to observe the bounded buffer, let us try to perceive again with a little bit more detail about its structure. See, for the bounded buffer structure, so how we are going to define C language? Type definition, struct, right. Next, so what exactly it contains? It contains some data locations. The bounded buffer contains some data locations. At the same time, the bounded buffer is having, since it is bounded, so it is having some limited size, and we have to remember that it is having two pointers. The first pointer is the in pointer. In pointer indicates the how many data items are there inside the buffer, and out pointer indicates that how many data items have been taken out from the bounded buffer. So whenever a new data item is kept in the buffer, so in equal to in plus 1, whereas whenever you are going to pick out any item from the buffer, then you have to apply the operation out equal to out plus 1. So remember friends, it is something like a queue where you have two pointers, the front and rear. So whenever you are keeping a new data item in the queue, you have to increase rear equal to rear plus 1. At the same time, whenever you want to fetch out some data from the queue, so you have to increase front equal to front plus 1. The same concept lies here. Now, if you look at the producer side process, while of true, what does it mean? So it is a permanent loop. While of true means that loop will always have good condition, true condition. It will enters into the inside the loop, right? So since it is a producer, it is trying to produce a new item. Now what we have to do? While in plus 1 mod buffer size equal to out, that means if the current in pointer, if it is increased, the current new in pointer, if it is increased, something like assume that it is a rear pointer. In means rear pointer. If the in pointer, if you increase and if it is equal to the rear point, mean if it is increased to the front pointer or out pointer, then you cannot keep the data item because the buffer is full. Do nothing. Don't do anything. We'll try to understand again. First, you have to check whether there is a space for keeping the new item or not. Right? If your pointer is just before the top pointer or the out pointer, then you cannot keep the data. So that means if in plus 1 mod buffer size equal to out, don't do anything. Right? No, there is some gap between the in pointer and out pointer. Then you can put the data. So buffer of in, it is something like an array. Buffer of in equal to keep the data. Next produced is the data item which we have produced. So buffer of in equal to next produced. Now what we have to do, since we have used the data in the in pointer, increase that pointer in equal to in plus 1. and this mod buffer size is the maximum size of the buffer. Max buffer size mod buffer size indicates the maximum buffer size. So let us try to understand this producer process again. So we have a while loop which is having a true condition. That means the producer process having a true condition, it is trying to produce a new item, right? Now we have to check whether this item has to be kept into the buffer or not. If the buffer is full, you cannot keep the data. How are you going to check the buffer is full? Simple. You have two pointers, in pointer and the out pointer. If in pointer is going to overlap with the out pointer, no, you cannot keep the data. That is the condition we are checking here. If in plus 1 equal to out, don't do anything. Simple. If in plus 1 equal to out, don't do anything. And that mod buffer size is for constraining within the same buffer, right? So don't confuse for that. In plus 1 equal to out means if front equal to rear, don't do anything, right? If there is some gap between in pointer and the out pointer, now you can keep the data at the in pointer, then you can increase the pointer. So buffer of in equal to the newly produced item, you can keep there. At the same time, in equal to in plus 1. Simple. So this is the producer process. Now let's try to understand the same scenario or the same strategy at the consumer side. What consumer process is doing? First, we have an item which has been newly consumed. Okay, right. Now, what consumer process is doing? While of true, that means it is a true condition, so it is going inside. Now, if in equal to out means if in pointer equal to out pointer, that means there is no item which has been kept in the memory. Again, try to think like that. If in equal to out means both are at the same pointer. Both in pointer and out pointer are pointing to the same location. If both are pointing to the same location, assume that you don't have the data in the buffer, right? Do nothing. If in equal to out, do nothing. No, if in is not equal to out, that means there is some gap between the in pointer and out pointer. That means there are some data items between the in pointer and out pointer. Now what we have to do? We have to go for which pointer? In pointer, out pointer. Since we are working with the consumer, okay, try to recall our queue concept, where we are keeping the data at the rear pointer and picking out the data at the front pointer. Similarly, in this scenario, we are going to pick out the data from the out pointer because we are using in pointer in the producer process. So, buffer of out pointer here we are using. Wherever the out pointer is pointing right now, pick out the data here for that. Pick out the data from the buffer at the out pointer and keep it into the next consumed, right? So you have successfully fetched the data at the out pointer. Now you have to increment the out pointer. Simple. Out equal to out plus 1. That's it. Out equal to out plus 1. Mod buffer size. Okay, so what we are going to check here? First, we have to check whether the buffer is contains some data or not. If in equal to out means there is no data. Simple. If in pointer is not equal to out pointer means we have some data. Now we have to pick the data from the out pointer. Simple. Buffer of out equal to some value, some variable next consumed. Right, we are using the buffer of out and simply we are incrementing the out pointer or out equal to out plus 1 or something like front equal to front plus 1. So this is about the consumer process. So by looking at these two processes, you can easily identify how the two processes are going to use a shared memory. Of course, it is a bounded buffer, but there is an important issue, very important issue called synchronization, which is most prevalent over this shared memory concept, and we are going to understand this synchronization concept in near future in our next sessions. Okay, So let's move ahead with understanding the message passing systems. See, message passing is a mechanism which provides the access to communicate and synchronize between two processes during sharing of data. So message passing is another kind of mechanism to exchange the data, okay, to exchange the data, and in this scenario or in this mechanism you can preserve the synchronization. So don't be confused with that. If you try to work, if you try to send some kind of messages using the chat box, that is the best example for the message passing systems, because a chat program used on the World Wide Web or chat program used on the internet could be designed so that the chat participants can communicate with one another by exchange messages. That is the simplest example. The chat programming, the application or the tool, which is the best example for this message passing systems. So this message passing or exchange of data in the message passing system, we are going to use two kinds of system calls in the operating system. We are going to use two kinds of system calls. The first one is the send system call and second one is the receive system call. So we are going to use two system calls. One is the send system call or the send operation, and the second one is the receive system call or receive operation to receive the data. In both the system calls, the message is acting as the parameter, or something like send within brackets you can write the message, whereas in receive you can write receive brackets message, right? And you can also assume that this message can be a simple bounded message, or this message can be an unbounded message, means it can be unlimited message again. So this message can be bounded message with limited bytes or limited amount of data, whereas this message can be unlimited data also. If you are working with the limited data, then the implementation is little bit easy. But if you trying to send unlimited data, then the operating system design is more complex when compared to the limited kind, right? In the message passing systems, we are very much concerned. In the message passing systems, we are very much concerned with three things. We are very much concerned with the three things. The first thing is the direct or indirect communication. So we have to first understand whether we are going to use the direct communication or the indirect communication. Just recall the diagram. So process A is sending the message to kernel. Kernel is forwarding that message to process B. That is an indirect communication. If process A is directly sending the message to process B, that is called the direct communication. So that is issue 1, or it is a kind. Second one, we have to look for whether the message passing system is synchronous or asynchronous. The message passing system is synchronous or asynchronous. We'll try to understand, but anyway, let me give simple example. You're speaking to your friend and your friend is trying to understand your messages. You're simply typing some messages to your friend using the phone, or you're sending some SMS to your friend and your friend is trying to receive the SMS, right? And you're saying, hi, good morning, right? Your friend has replied, okay, I'm fine, good morning. And in a speed thing, you're sending 3 or 4 messages immediately saying some information. But there is no chance that these 4 SMS or these 4 messages might be reaching your friend in the same scenario. They might be reaching in different order. When the order has been modified at the receiver side, then the meaning might be changed. Correct or not? You're saying something, come to so and so location, we are going to work there. Then if the same 2 statements has received by your friend in different scenario, then he might be understanding in different scenario. Correct or not? So this is about synchronous. Synchronous means the way you are sending, the way it is receiving, both should be synchronous. If it is non-synchronous, then the understanding might be changing. So you have to concern with that issue also. And the third issue is explicit buffering. That means since we are saying that the message might be limited or it might be unlimited, correct? It might be limited or it might be unlimited. So if it is unlimited or explicit buffer, means the buffering is explicitly mentioning, the buffer size is explicitly mentioning, then what might be the situation? We have to see these three issues. What is the first issue? Check whether direct or indirect communication. The second issue is you have to look for the synchronization. Third issue is you have to look for the buffering. So let us try to understand these three issues. What are they? The direct communication or indirect communication, the synchronization or synchronous, and third one is buffering. So when you are working with the direct communication, again, since it is a message passing system, we are going to use the two system calls. What are they? Send and receive. Simple. In the send system call, you are going to mention the process name and the message as parameters. That means send P comma message. What does it mean? Send a message to process P. Simple. In the other side, receive Q comma message. What does it mean? Receive a message from Q from process Q. So receive a message from process Q. So this is about the direct communication. And how about that link? Very simple. Since you are working with the direct communication, a predefined or pre-existing communication networking link between is created or established between the sender process and the receiver process. You have to remember that there is an established link or a fixed link between process A and process B, or the sender and the receiver. Okay, and through that communication link, the data is being exchanged using the system calls the send and receive. At the same time, for sending the data, use the system call send within brackets P comma message, and for receiving the data, receive Q comma message. So straightforward. And this strategy can be symmetry that sender is sending the data, receiver is taking the data. Simple, very simple. But sometimes it might be asymmetric. But that means only few senders are there, or we have heterogeneous, both the senders and receivers are not fixed. Then look at this scenario. Send P comma message, that means send a message to process P. It's a straightforward system call. Whereas if you try to write down the system call like receive ID comma message, what does it mean? You have many senders, and the ID is the parameter which contains the sender ID. So ID is a parameter which contains the sender ID, and the message is fixed. So receive of ID comma message indicates that receive a message from any process having the name ID, and ID is set to be the name of the process which communication has to be taken place. So this is about the asymmetric mode, where you have different number of sender and receivers. So let us try to understand in the other side also. In both the symmetric and asymmetric modes, we have one limitation. What is the basic limitation? It is that the IDs, if the IDs have been keep on changing, then it is a big issue. If the IDs are keep on changing, is a big issue in this scenario. Okay, we'll try to understand the same thing in little bit detail in the next sessions also. Let's move ahead. So in the direct communication, where the sender is directly sending to the receiver, that's it. Whereas in the indirect communication, it is very simple. You can see, let us try to understand the real world example. That is called the post box. See, some companies don't want to expose their names. So they simply redirect all the receiving mails to a particular post bag or post box. So post box is a common location where it will take or it will receive all the messages or mails from different senders and at any instance or at some stage, the receiver can go into the mailbox or post box, and he just open the post box, he can grab out all the messages. It is simple like a common mailbox technique. Even this is the same strategy we are using in our email systems also. Means we have a mailbox with our email ID, okay, and whenever you're getting any email, that email first will be kept into the mailbox. Even that mailbox might contain the mail from a number of senders, but whenever you try to log into your mail ID, then you can see all your mails connected to the mailbox. That's simple. So here mailbox is acting as an indirect communication for you. Again, we can see the same send and receive primitives here also. So how you are going to send? Simple. Send a common message. Instead of sending a message to mailbox A here, sending a message to mailbox A. Similarly, receive a common message. That means receive a message from mailbox A. Simple. So here mailbox is acting as an indirect communication with respect to the sender and receiver. And how about the link? How about the communication link here? Simple. A link is established between a pair of processes only if both members of the pair have shared mailbox. See, if both are having shared mailbox, then only link will be created. If both sender and receiver having the shared mailbox, then only a communication link will be created. Okay. That means if there is no common shared mailbox, then there is no establishment of the link. A link may be associated with more than two processes. Okay. And between each pair of communicating processes, there may be number of different links with each link corresponding to one mailbox. So don't assume that there is a fixed route between A and B. It's not like that. I'm always not going to send a mail to only B, but I'm having option to send different mails to different persons, to B, C, D, etc. So there is a fixed link. There is not a fixed link between the sender and the mailbox. You can have n number of communications at different instances. Now, who is going to supervise the mailbox? Obviously, the operating system can supervise the mailbox, or the processes can also supervise the mailbox. And if the mailbox is being supervised by the operating system, then operating system, what it can do? It can create a new mailbox. It can supervise the messages which are coming to the mailbox, and if it is needed, operating system can delete a mailbox. So this is about the indirect communication. And coming to the concept, that is the synchronization. So synchronization means it is something like accessing the common data. Synchronization means both the producer and consumer, or both the sender and receiver, are accessing the common data, are accessing to the same message at any particular instance. Then it will be a little bit difficult for you. Something like you're creating a message, or you're typing a message. Assume like that. You're typing a message. At the same time, the receiver is trying to view the message. Can he understand? No. Since the message is not being completed right now, the receiver might be a little bit confused what exactly it is. If the message is in the meaningful, then the receiver can easily understand. Correct or not? So, in the shared memory concept, or in the synchronous, to attain the synchronous, the message should be in understandable form. Then only the receiver can easily understand. Anyway, to make it something like more understandable between the sender and receiver, that environment we have to make it as the synchronous environment. Very simple. So what are the primitives or operations which we need to do with respect to the synchronization? We have 4 primitives. The first one is the blocking send. Blocking send means, so we are going to block before it is made into understandable form. The message is made into the understandable form. Second one is that non-blocking send. Non-blocking send means the sending process sends the message and resumes the operation. So here non-blocking means the sender process sends the message. Once it is successfully sent to the receiver, then only it will resume the operation. Okay. And third operation, the third primitive is the receiver blocks until a message is available. So receiver itself waits until the sender is completely sending the message. The receiver blocks itself. The receiver waits itself until the sender has full-fledged sent the message. Or non-blocking means the receiver retrieves as a valid message or a null. So non-blocking means it is not blocking itself, but anyway it will resume whenever it has received the meaningful message, or otherwise if the message is empty it can continue. So these are the four things which are done in the message passing systems with respect to the synchronization. First, the sender itself blocks until the message is received by the receiver. Simple. If it is non-blocking means the sender sends the message, it resumes itself. Similarly, the receiver might be blocking itself until it receives the complete message by the sender. Right. At the same time, non-blocking means the receiver either receives the data in the full or in the form of empty. So this is a concept called the Rendezvous concept. Very simple. Anyway, we'll try to understand this synchronized concept in the near future. And coming to the buffering concept, the mailbox or the communication link can be of three kinds. The first kind is the zero capacity, where it won't preserve any kind of data. It simply just forward the message to the receiver between the sender to receiver, where there is no capacity. If the mailbox or the link message passing system is having some bounded capacity, that means it can send up to n messages. If it is an unbounded capacity, means it can send infinite number of messages between sender and receiver. So the issues or the complexity increases from zero size to unbounded capacity. So that's all, friends. In our current session, we have gone through the IPC, the interprocess communication. At the same time, we have seen two fundamental models, the message passing and the shared memory. Okay. At the same time, we have understood about the producer-consumer process. And in the message passing systems, we understood about the namings, something like direct or indirect communication. And after that, we came to know about the mailbox or the indirect communication. We try to understand about the synchronization, something like blocking or non-blocking, at the same time synchronous or asynchronous. And finally, we came to know about the size of the buffer in the message passing systems. So that's all, friends. We'll try to meet soon in the next session. Bye. Have a nice day.